Hi,
Okay.
Sonia.
Salut, Mara!
Salut. Hi, Sonia.
Hai, Ana! Salutare! Ce drăguță ești tu singură acolo! So some of the kids wanted to join. Mara for sure wanted to join. I also have a video with four opinions from four of them. And I was wondering, Anna, if we can maybe select the movie for the next time at the end of the meeting for them not to be, or for Mara not to be too late. Because if we vote now, it will take more time.
Okay, no problem. We are still waiting for other people to join us.
Alex is also here, so he will join
Hi,
too.
Alex. Oh, wow. You traveled from United States to Romania. Yeah, even last time.
Yes, the last time he was here also. Come here. I will translate for Mara now and then. She understands a bit, but I will translate. Mara, o să-ți traduc ideile principale, bine? Pot să-ți traduc și în chat, dacă vrei, pe chat, dacă ți-aduce aminte. Și microfonul tău e pe mod.
Her microphone is off, so we cannot hear.
She knows. We just, we are going to start soon. Can you search for the game when it's happening? Cluj games. We had a huge crowd of football fans just crossing our street. The full of cops here now. We didn't even know about the game, but because we live next to the stadium in the city center, like you'll hear lots of cops, and they will win and not be bad.
No problem, no problem.
Oh my God, they is the two Cluj teams together.
Uh-huh.
So we have in the city two teams. They play one against each other today. It will be bad.
Yes, I know. Because then the fans from one team and the fans from the other team, they we have similar teams.
The team of the others. Mara, știi ce se întâmplă acum pe stadion la noi? Pe stadion aici lângă parc? Tocmai a trecut galeria de la Cluj, o mulțime de fani de fotbal de Cluj au trecut pe aici pentru că se întâmplă un meci între U și CFR și asta o să fie ciudat. E posibil să mă deconectez pentru o secundă, trebuie să mă mut de pe o rețea pe alta, bine? O să mă întorc. Anna, I need to switch from a Wi-Fi to another because I noticed that I'm connected to a phone instead of the home network.
Oh, okay. So she kind of went a little bit now into a freeze. You're back here. Yeah, I don't know where the others are. Here is Olessya.
Did you manage to give the Zoom link or Eugene or Alex to the new Zoom?
I sent the new Zoom link to everyone on the movie club. Hi, Olessya.
Hi.
Including to the director of the movie that we are waiting for?
Yes. I included her into that. Plus, I changed the link and put it also in the note on the Facebook.
I saw. Hi.
Right. Hi. I hope that her name is Erin, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, her name's Erin Davis.
Yes, I sent her too.
She has little kids, so they might keep her.
Right. So do you want to start talking about everything? Like, should we start or still wait? However you want.
Mara, vrei să începem sau mai așteptăm să mai intre oameni? I'm good with it.
Okay. So, do we need to introduce each other to each
Este tot una oricum.
She's fine either way also.
Mhm.
We can introduce each other maybe, or
Okay. So let's start with you, Sonia, and then you call other person after you and so on.
okay. You all know me. That's my kids out there from the school. Mara, tu ai văzut filmul o dată sau de două ori? O dată, nu? O dată. So it's almost 8 p.m. here for us. We finished the movie yesterday, and because we started to watch it 1 week ago, but we have the movie club 1 hour per week now, and we just saw the final 5 minutes yesterday, and then we had a discussion, and then we saw other short videos from 2 junk playgrounds, one that I facilitated with Alex and the one in New York that he created. So we talked about junk playgrounds a bit more. That's it. And I invite the husband here to introduce himself. Te prezinți?
Just
He said in Romanian.
Okay.
Olessya doesn't know you.
Oh, okay. Hi. I am a youth rights advocate, so I work, well, at the moment I work with Sonia.
At the moment?
Well, I didn't always, is what I meant. Yeah, and I had co-founded a junk playground, like the one that was actually very much inspired by the junk playground that's in the film, The Land. And I don't know what else. That's good.
I don't think I heard your name. Did you say your name? Sorry.
Oh, my name's Alex.
Alex. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Mara, vrei să te prezinți, să spui orice despre tine în română și traduc eu pentru tine? Poți să zic eu ceva despre tine? Okay, so I'm going to introduce Mara. She's a greener. This is her 2nd year at school, 4th year in green school, because we do separate sometimes kindergarten, because we work with 3 years olds. We separate them from school, and whenever they feel ready, not necessarily a specific age, but whenever they feel ready, they join school. She joined earlier, for example. And this is her 2nd year, first time watching the movie. Mara, oare mai înțeles? Vrei să-ți traduc ce am zis? Ok. We'll do a speak up.
Erin is at, I'm guessing, a different Zoom link?
Oh, she joined Eugene's, and he's so tell her to go in her email where I sent her the link, or let me send you the link here. You can, or you had it.
I can send him the link.
And in the password too.
Yes.
Mhm.
Sending you here.
Okay, well, we're waiting for that. Olessya, please introduce yourself to people who don't know you.
Sure. My name is Olessya. I'm currently living in Vancouver, Canada, and I am a PhD student or PhD candidate in the Simon Fraser University. So my research focuses on English as an additional language teacher identity, or more like the identity negotiations. And also I teach from time to time. For example, this year I'm teaching a course, Education 100, Selected Issues and Questions in Education, which is quite interesting. I'm also interested in dialogue, pedagogy, democratic education, try to incorporate at least some aspects of it into my own courses. So yeah, that's pretty much it about me. Oh, and I'm originally from Kazakhstan, but I've been living in Canada for the past few years. I think it's my 4th year in Canada.
And out of these 4 years, Olessya is a member of our movie club now for the 3rd year already.
Yeah.
Starting
Wow.
from the beginning,
Seems like we
yes.
started just like recently.
Right.
I'm going to translate a bit for Mara. Olessya este din Kazakhstan, dar acum locuiește în Canada. Știi unde este?
Da.
Ok. Și este, pe lângă faptul că învață la doctorat, este studentă la doctorat, și predă și este pasionată de educație și în special de educație democratică, așa cum facem și noi. Și pe Ana ai văzut-o? O știi pe Ana? O să-ți traduc după ce se prezintă și ea, îți traduc. So after you introduce yourself, I'm going to tell her a few words from your introduction.
From me?
Hmm.
Are you calling me to introduce myself?
Yes, yes.
Oh, so I am Anna. I'm Anna Marjanovic-Shane, and I'm originally from one country that does not exist anymore, but I'm here in that country that doesn't exist anymore. And this is next to you, Mara. I'm in Serbia. Before, a long time ago, it was part of a country called Yugoslavia. Now it's Serbia. So,
Mara, când eram eu mică, a fost un război lângă noi și o țară numită Iugoslavia s-a destrămat. Și acum teritoriile ei sunt împărțite între alte țări. Ana s-a născut în acea țară și fix acum este în Serbia, deși doar vizitează Serbia pentru că ea locuiește în Statele Unite. Și cumva asta voia să știi.
Yes, I do live normally in United States, but now I'm visiting here. And I have many, many friends from when I was a child. 2 days ago, I saw my friend from the 1st grade, 2 friends from the 1st grade in school. We went to dinner, and one of them I did not recognize first on the street, and he ran after me and said, "Now you're it now." And then I recognized him.
Încă are prieteni de când era mică și mai ales că pentru că trăiește în Statele Unite, nu reușește să îi vadă, dar acum fiind pe stradă s-a întâlnit cu cineva și mi s-a părut foarte interesant asta.
Okay. And I like to watch movies I like many, many movies, but I like these movies about various schools and to then talk about them.
Și îi plac foarte mult filmele, în special filmele astea la care ne uităm și noi la clubul de film, pe care le putem discuta din când în când.
Okay, this is my presentation. Now you said you will say something, or shall we start? Is Erin kind of like trying to regroup herself?
She apparently didn't see your link because she wrote back to me and Eugene saying I'm on the Zoom call to his link. So I sent her a few minutes ago saying here's the correct Zoom link.
Okay. You got my Zoom, my emails, and I included her in all the emails.
I got it too.
I got them. Yeah.
Okay, well, I hope she comes. All right, so let's talk a little bit about this movie, The Land, and since whoever wants to start first, we all watched it, so.
Sorry to interrupt. Are we going to choose a movie for the next meeting, or have you chosen it?
Oh. Since she cannot stay for long and it's already 8 o'clock in Romania, we will first discuss a little bit when she goes away, maybe at the end, maybe a little later, we will choose the movie, yes.
Oh, okay, thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
Mara, oricare dintre noi poate să înceapă să spună ceva despre film, orice idee binevenită. Dacă vrei să zici ceva, îmi spui și traduc pentru tine, bine?
Bine.
Well, I have a video. I don't want to start with it, but
yeah, let's talk about this movie, The Land, and if you maybe watch the other one, When the Kids Go Wild, whichever you want to talk
I
about.
wanted to say something else. I wanted to say that I have a video with the kids that made me film for their opinion to be here.
Hello. Hi,
Hi,
Erin.
Erin and I were having our own meeting.
Sorry,
Hi,
guys.
Diane. Hi, Diane. Yes, you went there into Eugene's meeting. You missed
Yeah.
my email, fell into the cracks probably.
Yeah,
Okay, well, I'm glad you switched back here. In the meantime, we introduced ourselves a little bit, and yeah, we can continue actually with your introduction of yourselves. My name is Anna, and I'm now moderating this meeting because unfortunately Eugene couldn't come. I hope maybe that they'll let him earlier, but it's a poor chance. He had to be in a jury duty. He's serving in American law system, so that's it.
Diana, please go first.
go first. I think lots of people here know who I am, but maybe not everybody. I met Eugene and Anna at the University of Delaware. I worked there with teacher candidates who were planning to teach secondary math. And I took some coursework from Eugene, and that's how I met both of them. And I started coming to these. Oh, Anna, I don't know. Was it 2 years ago? I know it's been a while.
This is our third year, so you're
Third
right.
year. Okay, so I missed a year.
No. You were in the first year, second year, and now you're in the third year. Yes.
Yeah. So and now I've retired from the University of Delaware, and I have moved up to Maine, and I finished teaching an online course for the university in August, and so I decided I needed a little break. But I have put in some applications at the colleges that are close by, and so that's probably what I'm going to be doing in the spring for sure.
Just so you know, I'm speaking Romanian for Mara in the chat, so
Yes,
just so
thank you. Yes, very good. And Mara is, I'll just quickly for all of you introduce her. She's Sonia's kid, and they both are in Romania, and it's almost 8 o'clock in the evening in Romania.
Yeah.
I'm in Serbia. It's almost 7 o'clock in Serbia. And so for us, it's the evening, and for you, it's still the daytime. So
Yeah.
And now, Erin, please introduce
Okay,
yourself.
good. Yes. Hi. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Erin, and I directed The Land, the short documentary film about the Land Adventure Playground. And I also have a 6 now. At the time of making the film, I didn't, but now I have a 6 and a 2-year-old. So I'm just sort of entering into more formal education environments. And so this is very interesting to be in discussion with all of you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming. And we just still did not start discussing your movie, but Sonia says that she also has some movie. And so continue now, Sonia, with what you wanted to say, because you just jumped into her middle of her words.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that.
No, you just went here.
So for you, Erin, I am a facilitator, an agile learning facilitator. I work with children. And since this movie club started, we kind of started the same process with the kids, just because in one moment, Eugene invited me to speak about Green School where I work. And I said, I can do better. I can ask the kids themselves. And they were guests in one of these meetings, and then they wanted to come back and come back and come back. But for that, they needed to watch the movies. And with my group, because we are 31, we have 31 kids in the school, and I work also with all of them, but also with a separate group. With the original group that during the pandemic was separated, we watched the movie and we discussed a lot. And 2 weeks ago, when this movie was voted to be discussed in the meeting, I watched again the movie with some of the kids. Mara is one of those kids. So some of them, they watched it 2 times, some of them only once, but they watched it at, I don't know, 2 years of a distance. Anna, I do not remember when we watched the first time.
That's it last year, the year before. So it's 2 years distance. And for them, it's a huge time. Yes.
And well, they watched longer movies and shorter movies. This one was a short one. They remember all of them. But yeah, when you are 6 or 7 or 8, 2 years ago is a long time ago. I have a video. This is what I was saying. I have a video because they knew that some of them, they cannot join. And they said they want their opinion here. So it's a very short opinion. It's a very short movie. I will share the screen whenever is appropriate too. That's food. So I'm gonna really fast say to Mara a message. Mara, doar am vorbit despre când am văzut noi filmul și faptul că avem o filmare pe care vrem să o arătăm tuturor celor de aici. Bine? Atât.
So, Erin, since you are the author of this movie, I think it would be very, very nice to tell us, how did you even come about this idea to make this movie? How did this project came into being?
Yeah, thank you for asking. It was kind of like the perfect example. It's sort of like the dream example for an alternative educator, probably. I read an article randomly in the New Yorker, actually. I was living in New York, and I read an article about a special new playground that had been built in downtown New York City called the Imagination Playground. It had loose parts. It was designed by this super fancy architecture firm. It cost millions of dollars. And, you know, movie stars brought their kids to this playground. And at the time I was working as a nanny, and I thought, oh, okay, let's go there. Sounds cool. And the kids loved it. They loved it. It had, you know, big foam bricks and water and sand and no shade and tons of parents everywhere, but the kids had a blast. And I don't know, it just stuck a little hook in me. And I remember reading in the article that the fancy playground had been inspired by something called an adventure playground that had a history in the UK. And I just sort of fell down the rabbit hole. I can't remember exactly what happened next. Oh, I went to a lecture actually that in New York about the featuring the designers of this fancy New York City playground. And in chatting afterwards, met some people who were part of the adventure playground movement. And I don't know, I was just obsessed. This was 2010. And the big public narrative at the time was that children were overscheduled and over-medicated. And so this really seemed like the opposite of what was appropriate or normal for children. And I was very intrigued because it also looked super cool and fun and reminded me of things that I did that were fun when I was a kid. So one thing led to another, and I was in a firehouse in Wales a few months later, or a fort with a fire in it. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I will say that I ended up at the Land specifically because they were relatively new. So maybe Alex has had a similar experience, but when you're starting a place like this, you need money, you need attention, you want people to care about what you're doing. So, you know, I had reached out to, it's slipping my mind now, but like the first MDRUP, the very first adventure playground in the world, I had reached out to them. They didn't speak English. I didn't speak Danish. There were just some hiccups. They didn't care. They had no reason to participate. And the Land was new, and they were like, wow, this American is paying attention to what we're doing. And what I'll say is that it was the world at the time, the world's newest adventure playground, using some of the oldest junk play philosophies. So it was a new program. and there was nothing built up, nothing established. It was like all sparkle and energy, and it was really just sort of like, in that really, I'm getting chills just thinking about it. But when something special is new, it was just like hadn't quite become itself yet. And so I just kind of got there at a really exciting time for them and for me, because it's different now. The land is different now than it was then. And there are really cool adventure playgrounds throughout the UK that used to be like the land, but they did a fundraising push and now they have a big giant castle. That's really cool, but it's very permanent and fixed. And things change over time, programs change over time. And so I happened to be there very early on for the land, which was cool.
Very beautiful story. What year was that actually when you made it?
Let's see, that was like in 2014 or so, I think, because we've premiered the film in 2015. And yeah, so it might have been a little bit before that, but 2013, 2014, I think.
Oh, wow. It's really...
Mara, îți scriu în chat. Citești de acolo, bine? Ok. Sorry.
What else can I say about it? What else is interesting?
Maybe it's interesting what Mara thinks about it.
Yeah, please.
Mara, Ana este curioasă ce crezi tu despre film. Microfonul tău nu este pe sunet.
Îți scriu în chat.
Îmi scrii? Vrei să arăt filmulețul cu părerea pe care am luat-o de la tine? De ieri?
Cu părerea de la toți.
Okay. She wants me to show you the video, and eventually she will write in the chat. We are maybe too many adults.
Well, let's do that. So Sonia, you made the video in your school, right?
I just filmed it with my phone. Yeah. Can I share my screen? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So here it is. I will need to stop it to translate for you. She's there, and this is her opinion. Spune-mi, te rog, ce părere ai despre filmul pe care tocmai l-ai văzut, filmul de
Mi-a
Land.
plăcut foarte tare că copiii erau liberi și că aveau materiale.
I love that the kids were free and had materials.
Mi-a plăcut tare că adulții nu se băgau în joaca lor.
I love that the adults didn't interfere with their play.
Și că ei le dădea jos toate hazardele care le puteau fi.
And that they were making sure that there are no hazards.
Dar îi lăsau pe ei să facă cam ce vor.
But despite that, all the adults were letting the kids free for them to do whatever they wanted.
Nu,
Timi.
Timi.
Timi, ce părere ai despre filmul pe care l-ai văzut?
Mi-a plăcut totul, gata.
I loved everything, that's it.
Păi, mie mi-a plăcut foarte mult că erau liberi copiii și facilitatorii interveneau doar dacă era un hazard sau...
I love that the kids were free and the facilitators were interfering with the play only in case of hazards.
Dacă era ceva foarte periculos, adică...
Or something very dangerous, like...
Nu se băgau în joaca lor, chiar dacă știau că e ceva periculos, ei nu le întrerupea.
They were not interrupting the play, even in dangerous situations, and she appreciated that.
Distracția.
And they were not breaking the fun.
Sonia, mă vedeam aici.
Un pic. Mara, ce părere ai despre filmul pe care l-ai văzut?
Mi-a plăcut că adulții nu interveniau.
Gata? I like that the adults were not interfering. This is a major topic. We do talk with the kids about what's my role, and whenever they ask, can I go to the toilet, we are asking them, why are you asking me that? So these are kids that talk on a daily basis about this. Ce vrei să zici? Hai.
De fapt, nu.
Okay. Mai vrea cineva să zică ceva despre film?
Nu.
Anyone wants to? Ok.
vedea?
Matei, vrei să zici ceva despre film?
Da.
Hai.
Păi, am fost de acord cu Timi. Mi-a plăcut totul.
He agrees with Timmy, he liked everything. Ce părere aveți despre cum a fost realizat filmul? Este un document. What opinion you have? What's your opinion about how the movie was made? About interviews or about kids in the movie? What do you think about that? Este scurt, are interviuri, are scene cu copii. Ce părere aveți despre film?
Are interviuri, are scenă cu copii.
They like the fact that there are interviews and scenes with kids in it.
Și ceva scurt, adică nu e foarte lung.
And they also appreciated that it's not very long. E plictisitor?
Nu.
I asked if it's boring. They said no. E amuzant? Is it fun?
Așa
E
și
informativ?
așa.
But, more or less.
Da.
But it's very. Și știți unde este parcul ăsta pe care l-ați văzut? Do you know where is this park that you just saw? Nu este în New York, este în UK. Și mai țineți minte cum se numește tipul ăsta de parc?
Junk Playground.
Ok. Mai vrea cineva să spună părerea despre film?
Nu. Sonia, tu trebuie. Eu te filmez.
They decided that I need to share my opinion too, so now you'll see it. In engleză? For me, this movie is a very useful tool to teach children what is the difference between risk and hazard. And I think it is a wonderful opportunity to see how comfortable people are with mud and junk and how to transform everything into a different everything.
Oh, how beautiful. Thank you for making that so interesting.
Mara, thank you. And Sonia
Wrote in the chat that she liked a lot the fact that the educators were leaving the kids to do whatever they want.
Yeah, I heard a lot of comments about not being interrupted. And I think that's very interesting. We do have such a I mean, probably not you guys, but us folks out in the non-thinking about this, or folks, out normally, interrupting is so common and acceptable and it's never questioned. It's just assumed that you have a right to interrupt, to say whatever hilarious thing you have to say or make a comment or congratulate them on whatever they're doing. It's like that was the thing about me that changed the most after visiting the land is zippity-doo-dah. I shut up, I talk so much less. Or I try. It is a practice. Because there's basically nothing reinforcing that you should be quiet. Or at least in my experience, people just love to talk. So it's really been an ongoing challenge and practice to talk less when I'm around children who are engaged in play. Stay out of it unless I'm invited in. May I ask a question? I don't want to interrupt you if you have a flow in mind, but how old were these kids? They're like 7 or 8 or so. Yeah.
Around 7.
Yeah.
The kids that saw the movie, they were younger. They didn't want to be filmed. They were 5 and 6. We talked about consent and all of that, and they were like, nope, not I in it. But the majority of them, they are 7 and 8. And when we first saw the movie, they were the majority of them, they were 6. And the movie stuck with them, especially because the facilitator from the park is explaining, and the kids were seeing all the cardboard on fire, and my kids were like, oh my God. But then they realized that there is an adult out there if needed. They were seeing, I do not remember names, but they were seeing the facilitator there just observing from the distance.
Yeah.
And a few months after, we noticed a discussion. Mara was not there. We noticed a discussion in the group. They were playing tag, and one of the kids wanted to hide in a place where it was not safe because we had some rocks coming down from an area, and they couldn't convince her. No way. Actually, the girl is on in the video that you just saw, is the first girl that you saw. She was not negotiating. She wanted to stay there, and that was her house, and you cannot touch her on tag while she's in that house. And the kids immediately switched to the discussion, saying, this is not nice. This is actually a hazard, and not a risk, it's a hazard. You say that there are no falling rocks, but you don't see them, and hazards, you don't see them. So there, you need to move.
Yeah.
And, the discussion between hazards and risks started because of the movie, because we were about risks, but not necessarily with children between hazards and risks. So it was one of the two. And from that moment, the kids know the difference, and they talk pretty often about it.
That's so interesting. Thank you for sharing that. I hear that a lot from adults who see the film about that differentiation between risk and hazard, and it does seem to be something that really stands out. And I love that it's such a useful, practical framework that you can apply right away. I think there are things that, about play work and about thinking about the land that you can, like, a lot of it is a long game, developing a play culture and an environment, allowing an environment to evolve like that. It is a long game, but it's also there are immediate things one can do when you're becoming familiar with play work, and talk less, be thinking about what's a risk versus what's a hazard. Is this my problem, or is the child actually having a problem? And starting to think about that just can be so productive. So that's really cool that the kids are having those conversations as well. Most of my audiences that I talk to are adults. So that's really good insight. Thank you. I also get a question a lot about whether the film is appropriate for this age group or that age group. And as you can imagine, that's a hard question to answer. And I do have like a kid-friendly cut, without the mannequin and without the fire, that sometimes I have shown to like younger audiences, depending on the context, like what we can it's a starting point. I guess can be a productive starting point. But I wonder if you got the sense with the kids that they were uncomfortable with certain content, or if they felt like something, if they were uncomfortable anyway. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
They were not. I was a bit, and the first time when we saw it, because they were very young, I said, I'm not translating the swearing. If you understand them, fine, but I'm not translating. And now they were old enough to understand the swearing, but I didn't say anything. But what I felt I didn't remember. I was not remembering the scene with the mannequin. And I was like, oh, I have younger kids now in the room. So I was like, please don't be. And then when they were like, what are they doing? They didn't understand. What are they doing? And I said, I think they're trying to find ways to play with the mannequin. What would you do? And they started they had lots of ideas. First of all, the main idea would be that they would make a swing out of it, because it's long enough for more people to stay. So I think kids should be exposed to inappropriate things.
Well, it's inappropriate maybe in our eyes, but in no way it's inappropriate in their eyes, because they see it from their own experience. And so what's the bad thing in there? Like
I can ask Mara's opinion on this also. She also says that she liked the educators were allowing kids take risks and be exposed to hazards in the same time. Mara, se vorbește acum despre faptul că, uite, Erin se gândea că foarte mulți adulți au văzut filmul, dar nu și foarte mulți copii. și se gândea dacă filmul ăsta este prietenos cu copiii, dacă pe tine sau pe colegii tăi v-au speriat în momentele în care copiii nu vorbeau politicos, dacă înjurau sau dacă scenele în care apărea manechinul care este dezbrăcat au fost problematici pentru tine. Te-a speriat ceva? Ți se pare că se pot uita și alți copii? Ți se pare că v-ați speriat voi la filmul ăsta sau e ceva ce nu v-a plăcut? Poți să-mi zici doar mie, că e mai ușor. Îmi scrii sau deschis microfonul?
She's writing.
I think she's writing.
Okay.
Oh, thank you. Wow.
I also thought that what the kids were discussing among themselves in different situations were very interesting things. Like, to me, it sounded really like the very deep issues about life and death, about, eyes and ears and the breath and what can happen when they felt the risk. But, who should they allow? They didn't allow the girl to come because they wanted to make sure that she's safe. So that's a little bit boys and girls relationships, what the boys think about how to behave with girls in a protective way, in a way. But among themselves, they were not really showing off, but a little bit kind of like who can endure a little bit more and show that they can take care of themselves when the time comes in a very good way. So I thought that life, death, and responsibility and how to treat other people, very interesting talk.
Yeah, that scene is very dynamic. There's a lot going on and people interpret it in lots of different ways. Did other folks have opinions about that scene? Maybe that echo that or were different?
Which one?
I guess when there's a fire in the fort, and in particular when Paige sort of tries to come in and is rejected and
what they talk about the boys.
Yes, and all.
My opinion is I have no opinion on that, but my kids were like, they can choose with whom to play. They had no opinion. It was nothing bad for them.
Okay. Yeah.
They took it, and also Mara said here she didn't find anything scary in this movie.
Not scary. How old is Mara?
Mara, câți ani ai? I think 7, but I need to be sure.
So Mara wrote a lot of things that to us, but you can translate.
I translated everything. Also, it's a lot of my text there, but I translated as we go. I think she is 7.
I have a question for Erin. Since you made this film before your children, have your ideas about this type of educational play, have they changed at all? Do you think any differently about The Land?
No, I definitely don't think I still hold it as sort of like a beacon, a guiding star, really. And I think so no, but it's definitely hard to move my gaze from The Land to my child. And then look at my own child and be like, but don't you say a bad word, or don't you get your feelings hurt? It's like, The Land is one thing, and then Playwork is this other thing. I don't know if you guys have talked much about Playwork, but
we didn't. I don't think we talked about Playwork in this group, but know a little bit more. I know a little bit more about Playwork. If people are interested, we could talk about it. And Alex, please, yes. It's very interesting what they're doing in your movie. And Alex, what did you think about it?
Yeah, this is a film that I've come back to over and over and over again, as I think Erin knows, and is literally the risk versus hazard scene in that has changed me so significantly, and it's literally the one, if I have an elevator pitch for how to reconsider being a parent in your child's life, I give them the risk versus hazard explanation, because I think that just can be applied to any. It doesn't have to be on a junk playground, or like you can deal with that with any interaction with when you're interacting with the child in any sort of a manner. Like, don't interfere if it's a risk. If it's a hazard, interfere. And but yeah, I mean, this film, I'm trying to remember, I think the order of events was that because I remember showing the land at like the grand opening of the playground, the junk playground in New York City that I helped to open. And it was definitely like it was an inspiration for me into opening the playground, and also just like into the world of play work. So yeah, I mean, it's not only is it a great film and do I enjoy it, and like the things that you were able to catch while you were there, and the little bit I know of like documentary filmmaking, like what a wonderful opportunity it was. And it's a great thing that you didn't go to MDrop, because I've been to MDrop, and it's the MDrop, the original junk playground in outside of Copenhagen, and it's now nothing. It's not even anymore. But yeah, this is it's also just become such a resource for me, this film. So I'm really glad.
I do think that it like holds its own. It's getting older now of a film. It's different. The thing about the playground is that like you will always be triggered by something that the kids do, right? Like something will agitate you, annoy you, and like, not you, but me. I don't know. I feel like I'm lecturing. I don't mean to be doing that, but like inevitably one will feel that impulse to control the situation, whether it's when the kids are swearing or climbing, or maybe overly conforming to gender roles. You want to be like, you don't have to be like that. You can, whatever, who knows. Over the years, like as I change, what triggers me about the film changes. I'm more upset personally now by the mannequin scene. It means there's so much metaphor in that. I tie so much into that now when I watch it. But I think like the fact is, in the moment, like the kids were just playing. It's never about all the things in my head. I don't know. For me, the film really just illustrates the gap between what the child is experiencing in their play and what I'm going through watching it. Is that making sense to anybody else? Like, because it's just it's just so like, yeah, I'm not articulating myself very well, but I think maybe you're kind of getting what I'm saying.
Yes. And it depends not only on you or all adults, but where you come from. I don't know. I would like to hear, Olessya, how you played in Kazakhstan, and what would people in Kazakhstan today, or when you were younger, think about these kind of playgrounds?
Let me just fix my video real quick. So yeah, I mean, I guess my perspective might be somewhat different, because my childhood was how shall I put it, in post-Soviet countries after the collapse of the Soviet Union. Maybe again, I I was born almost at the end of the Soviet Union, let's say. So I don't know, like, but I assume that the last years weren't too good either. So anyways, after the collapse, there was a lot of factories were closed, people were losing their jobs. It was pretty bad. So which means that there were quite many places with, I don't know, some empty buildings, or maybe again junkyards or something like this. Again, I'm not sure about junkyards, but yeah. So I guess what they made specifically for children there, we kind of experienced, again, personally, I wouldn't say that I saw something exactly like this, but I remember like being to a few places where we could really, I don't know, play with the junk or do something, I don't know, maybe even swim, go to the forest, something like this. So like we had access to all of this, and they weren't too much, again, that depends, but usually children were pretty free from quite young age to do whatever they want outside, just make sure to come home to eat sometimes. Yeah, so significantly less control in my childhood. Again, I assume now it again probably have changed. I don't have children, but I assume there are fewer places like this, maybe, though again, maybe not. And there is a bit more control probably, but yeah, my childhood, I mean, this, if we compare this to what I experienced, it's not that different. So it was something new for me personally. But yeah, I assume that especially in the cultures where there is more control, or again, even now, as I said, I haven't experienced it as a parent, but I assume maybe right now it's different, though I'm not sure, because there are still quite many places with how shall I put it? I guess junkyards, old buildings, or something like this, where children might still play actually. But I'm not sure, because the infrastructure is kind of developing, but to which rate and how many places remain empty or like free for children to explore, I don't know. But yeah, I don't think like where I come from, something like this. Yeah, yeah. I mean,
It wouldn't be necessary. It sounds like you're
yeah,
saying it wouldn't be necessary
yeah,
because
yeah.
it was your environment more broadly.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, it was, yeah, great. I mean, I did think that maybe some of the things they did were quite dangerous, but again, if they are more or less observed, and if no major accidents have happened so far, again, you cannot like always make sure that the child does not hurt themselves. And again, talking about the past, I don't remember me well. I mean, I did fall a few times, and like, but I mean, thinking of my childhood, we did get hurt sometimes because accidents happen, but most of us seem to have survived. So yeah, I guess it should be fine. So yeah, and my personal opinion is this. How shall I put? There is this concept in education, land as education, or place as a school, like when you basically learn from land, especially like in Canada here, they're now bringing this indigenous teachings, indigenous education, where this is part of the education. Basically, you learn as you do, you learn from land, you learn through the activities that you do on land. So I guess in this sense, yeah, it's one of the ways to educate children how to interact with the environment and how to be, I guess, independent in this environment, because the more you control, the less they are able to think for themselves. And then we just throw them into the world at the age of 16 or 18 or 20, they just, okay, what do I do now? And then they're lost. And then only like 10 years later, at the age of 30 or 40, they realize, okay, I've been doing something wrong. Or yeah, I don't know.
It's tricky. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, yeah, that's a great idea, especially in the places where children naturally do not have it. But still a little bit of at least like the observation from someone that, for example, if a child does get hurt, someone would come and help. Yeah, that's probably a good idea, because in my childhood we just mostly went and did whatever we wanted, and then yeah, hopefully nothing bad is happening will happen.
That was pretty much the situation when I was growing up, which was much earlier than Olessya. And so what now is here made especially for children, plus they have play workers who very, 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 I mean, the level of their concentration there is so exhaustingly strong, and they are there like a god hovering all the time. We were just outside in the wild. Nobody was with us. In my case, we had a little woods near my house. That was really kind of not really a park, but undeveloped part of land. And it was down the hill. We had in the winter we were sliding there. At the bottom of that hill was a well of spring of natural water. We would come and drink from it by lying down and licking it or with hands. There was some kind of end of a tunnel that we were imagining there is some kind of scary man living there. We never saw anybody there, but we were climbing trees. We were stealing cherries and stealing other fruit, green fruit from our neighbors that were running us down the trees, like, don't steal my cherries, like things like that. But nobody was sent to take care of us. And the only thing was about 4, 5, 6, whenever in the late afternoon, all the mothers would just yell through windows, come back to eat. Where are you? Through streets and streets, that was it. And so it's very interesting that now we have occupied the land of children, like we have occupied the land of animals, and children don't have their places anymore. They don't have their freedom to go. We have to create this, even though this looks like very natural, it's very artificial environment. It's made specially for children by some young adults. I like that they're very young and they're enjoying themselves almost like they're at the verge of stopping to be a child. But still, like when they ask them who put this swing here, they say, oh, I don't know. But they arrange everything. They bring everything. It's not something that really comes from children, and it's just like theirs. Like streets and these woods or parks were really ours, and that was it. That's interesting, isn't it?
I want to add to that, but I see Sonia, you have your hand up.
I need to translate for Mara that soon will go to sleep. She added more things in the chat. So she said, and maybe some of this, she tried to be on time. For example, Olessya, she tried to agree with you when you were speaking, but I didn't want to interrupt. So she said like this, Mara said she didn't consider anything scary, and she considers that if it's on her, more kids should watch the movie. And then she says, it's a must. They should watch the movie. More of them. And then she added that she considers that at least 10 parks, 10 junk playgrounds should be in this country. And then she added, when Olessya, you said that it's normal to have accidents when kids take risks. She said that she agrees with this. So I'm gonna ask her if she stays with us more or if she goes to sleep, and then he has something to add on your discussions and I have something to add later on. Mara, vrei să mai stai sau vrei să mergi la somn? Poți să alegi ce vrei tu. Dacă ți-e somnic, poți să mergi. Dacă vrei să mai stai, poți să mai stai. Sau poți să ieși când vrei tu.
O să ies mai imediat. Mai stau un pic.
Ok, bine. She will soon go offline, but she's still staying with us for the moment. You go.
I was just gonna comment on that idea of are junk playgrounds even necessary? And pretty much everything that I do with young people for what I do as a profession, working with young people, is things that when I was a young person, there was no adult involved, as you were all discussing. And it's interesting that now I do feel that in certain environments, it is necessary. But I wanted to give just a quick example that I thought was so fascinating. the person who's the head play worker in at the Junk Playground in New York City, who's a good friend of mine, Yoni. He moved to a neighborhood in New York City that is a low-income neighborhood, and each day was leaving that neighborhood to go to the Junk Playground, where very affluent families bring their kids to play on the playground. And he remarked, this is a bunch of years ago, he told me this, but he was remarking how interesting it is that then when he would come home from work, he would see all the children from the lower income families out in the streets unsupervised, the way we're describing it, how I remember my childhood and how a lot of you are saying the same. And how interesting it is that it was still that way for those families, whether it was desirable or not, whether it was because, you know, it's a single parent family and they're working 3 jobs to put food on the table, or you know, like it's not necessarily because it's some beautiful reasoning, but that those kids were more free in the same city as the kids who were more affluent, or, you know, like the Junk Playground in New York charge a significant amount of money for people to come to the summer camps that we would run there. And I used to always laugh and say, you know, all these millionaire families in New York are paying a lot of money to send their kids to a pile of junk to play. But in any case, it's just interesting how, like, even in the same city, that there's that difference happening.
That's very interesting. Yes, what the lower income families have for free, so to speak. Yeah. How about you, Diane? Oh, your microphone is not on.
I asked Erin that question about how she felt about it with her kids, because this is what I know about parents in a lot of traditional schools. They don't want their kids around certain other kids. So when the play is open,
Yeah.
it's not, the kids don't have zero influence. They actually are influenced by all the families that belong to all the kids that are playing. And so I find that fascinating, to compare that with the pressures we face from parents. You know, they want kids to learn different things. They want to put them in different streams. They put them in different schools. They fight over which schools they're going to put them in over choice. And a lot of it is because they don't want their kids influenced by the kids in these other families. And so I'm just curious, do any of those thoughts happen? Or are these very free thinking families that participate in the Junk Playgrounds?
I'll say that the neighborhood that the land is in is a working class neighborhood. They're neighborhood kids. They all know each other, have been growing up together. So I think that context is important. Yeah, I'll leave it at that, I guess. I think we're talking about families that don't have a ton of time or capacity to put into parenting ideas necessarily. I mean, they're all good people, but they're busy and they have a lot of things that they're juggling.
For example, we talked a little bit about the swearing.
Yeah.
You know, and so.
Oh, right.
I know there are words I didn't know way later than I should have known, and it's because of the circles that I traveled in when I was in 4th and 5th grade. I think my first swear word I saw on the side of a building and didn't know what it was. You know, so.
Yeah, I mean, that kid, Corey, is someone who outside of the land gets, for brevity, he's considered a bad kid. You know what I mean? He swears he's whatever, he's bad or whatever, I guess, you know, by all the normal standards, typical standards. And at the land, his personality works a lot more. You know, I talked to Dave once about it and he was sort of like, you know, Corey's a leader. he could start a fire out of anything. You know, he's like, if I was in a tribe, I'd want to be in Corey's tribe. Like that kid has skills that are like incompatible with the world that he happens to be living in right now. So I do think that like the way that Playworkers just see the children for what they are and provide for who the child is in that moment is like, that is like the thing, that's the zoom in that I'm always looking for. That's the thing that I'm always trying to do, no matter if I'm talking about as a parent or any other context.
And do you see this working at any age? I mean, up through high school?
Alex probably has an opinion on that. I mean, basically, yes, you know, Playwork is just providing time and space and materials and following the child's lead and supporting them in their interests. So yeah, absolutely. And if anything, like there's not enough support for it. A lot of times like, oh, it's great to have playful kindergarten. Oh, sure. It's okay if your kid can't read till they're 7. Wait, they're 9 and they can't read. Oh, well, now that he's 10, you know what I mean? Like as the kids get older, the playtime gets so devalued, you know, and play like starts looking like other things that make us uncomfortable. It looks like flirting. It looks like trying to smoke or pretend that you're smoking. You know, it starts triggering us in different ways. And I think I'm saying I'm assuming a lot of things, but the leash gets tightened as kids get older. So I think it'd be cool if there was more support to sort of like continue supporting kids' playful lives or people's playful lives, you know, adults' playful lives. The land, I will say the actual land that it's on, you know, Claire, the lead play worker at the land, she grew up in this neighborhood and that was where she played as a child. And now as an adult, like sort of put the fence up around that spot. And I do think of it as sort of like a habitat, almost like a zoo, you know, like as close to a wild environment as possible for the children, to sort of like, it's almost like she just put like a lid over that childhood that she experienced, and lets kids come in and out of it, you know. And the work of a play worker is that cool work that you see one-on-one with the children in the moment, but it's also all the bullshit that parents and adults have to do: filing permits, fundraising, you know, hiring, firing, taxes, all the garbage that that is all part of the protecting of the play experience. I think all of that adult work too, and that's at least half of a play worker's job as well.
May I just chime in for a second? Yeah, I think it's important to point out that adventure or junk playgrounds, especially in the UK and in Scandinavia, but certainly outside of the United States, the purpose for them is for in general is significantly different in that they oftentimes act as community centers.
Yes.
They're a destination for children after school. A lot of them provide free meals, have different types of services. A lot of the ones that I've visited in the UK will like help they'll have a junk playground time and then they're like helping them with their homework, sort of a thing. Like, yeah, it's all sorts of things. And the mix of like what kind of looks like an after school program in the United States versus a junk playground gets messy in there. Whereas in the United States, there being very few junk playgrounds, and from like a litigation standpoint being much more difficult, and also from like a funding standpoint, because a lot of the junk playgrounds in the UK and in Europe or even in Asia are publicly funded. In the United States, they're almost all private. In fact, I think some of them are publicly funded, but the funding generally is private, and they tend to be more destinations rather than a community. So the kids don't know each other. So that's very different. I would say just 2 other quick things. One is the reason why I got interested in junk playgrounds was I was originally in self-directed education. So I was working with children in a school environment, and it's a much bigger commitment to say, hey, send your kid to a school like this than it is, hey, they let them spend some time after school playing in a place like this. And I thought that it was really one of the wonderful things about junk playgrounds is that just any kid can walk in there. And most of the times, like the one in New York, the amount of times where I saw a family just walking down the street and the kid's like, I want to go in there. And the parents are like, I don't know. And then they let them in. And the next thing you know, the parents are sitting there going, oh my God, I didn't know my kid could do that. So you'd have a lot of experiences like that. And then on the other end of it, what I ended up doing, because I'm not at the junk playground in New York anymore, I got excited about the idea of doing the opposite, taking the fence back down off of the junk playgrounds, because as wonderful as they are, and they're wonderful, and I'm so glad that they're there, what kept bugging me is they're free inside this fenced-in area, like that wild habitat. I think that's a great analogy, Erin. And then once they go back outside, they're just regular old kids in oppressive, youth-oppressed society. And so I started creating a program called Flying Squads, which Mara will be on a flying squad tomorrow.
Yeah, fences are a really interesting debate in adventure play, for sure.
Well, and they're very necessary, even if it's not a physical fence, like the Flying Squad idea as well, which is doing sort of a junk play idea or that sort of a thing where an adult is kind of acting as a play worker, but you're wandering around public spaces with the kids. It's still fenced in that it's still an experience with a group of kids in a very specific context. But in any case, it just made me think about that. So
that's cool.
I also want to say something because I keep translating and I had ideas in my mind. For a few days now, I'm complaining about talking with the taxi drivers while going to school. I'm complaining about the fact that one of the streets towards my school is always busy. And it's busy because there's a big school there. And while we were talking, me and the driver yesterday, he was like, what's happening here? Is this a car crash? And I was like, no, that's the street with the school. And he was like, what are they doing? And I said, well, they bring their kids to school till the last centimeter of the parking area where they can, till they are 18 now. And probably the driver was same age as me, meaning we are born before the revolution in Romania, when they basically gave us the key of the apartment and hoped not to lose it. When we were 3 or 4, and I was coming back alone from the kindergarten. I was never like, my mom showed me the way home in the first day, and then I needed to manage. So I also grew up in a similar places, in a similar context that Olessya and Anna and Alex described. And we were playing the cans for us. They were like thousands of things. But, and there was a but, we didn't have access to all tools. We didn't have access to open fire. We were uninterrupted and unsupervised because that was the way of raising children before the 90s. And I think in many countries. But we didn't have access to all tools. Like the basic tool that we had, it was the hammer, which is basically if you don't hit someone in the head. Okay. But now I'm observing, and we're trying to approach this in the school, I'm observing this switch. Sigur că da. Mara vrea să vă transmit English. Mara wants me to tell you that she is going out of Zoom and she wants me to tell her tomorrow at school what we discussed. Noapte bună.
Bye.
Bye. Good night.
So basically, I observed also the helicopter parenting starting to appear in Romania later than in other countries, but it started, and it started strong, and it started with a huge guilt, a transgenerational guilt that oh my God, my parents gave me so much trauma from all of this. I cannot do this to my child. So I'm going to do everything that stays in my power to protect my child. So while working in self-directed education, you have anyway a huge guilt because you are doing something that no one else does. And in this country, we are the first ones doing this. So we have no comparison. Parents cannot compare children as they do in this very competitive country. So we have this, oh my God, everything must be perfect. And I used to say that green school is a place for basically every child, but not for every parent, especially if they have a lot of mud. And my kids, when they were watching the movie, they were like, nothing. The new kid, we have a new kid that watched this movie, and she's with us for just a month and a half now. She was like, oh my God, that's so much dirt. So because she's not yet used to it, and because it was not raining in the last a month and a half, so we didn't have the mud. But somehow I can see the value in this movie. I also compare it with parents will recognize it, but now in that I want my kids to be perfect, I am putting the all the allergies that people from modern countries have because their countries are more clean and their spaces are way more clean. And now we can see this after the pandemic. Basically, we have kindergarten kids that are born in 2020 and they get sick like on a weekly basis. Someone has something, which is a bit more. Also, I had one last thing to add. When you said that kids are seen as bad kids or bad boys outside of the park, I am a play worker for a few years now. Didn't have the time to work in a specific junk playground. I had junk playground activities, sometimes not calling them that, but the word play worker that we called ourselves, it was a French word because I studied the French animation. And the last time when I did junk playground, because in green school I'm not doing this now, he does. It was in August when probably the second day, Orson, I want to speak at Summerhill. I want to speak about Orson. Like we had this 4 years old kid, like, oh my God, so passionate about putting everything, all the energy. He was like a lot of intense, not in the bad way, but intense in which where are all the tools? Orson must have them. And it took him a moment until he figured out that he needs to put the tools that he's not using back for other people to use them. And he respected the rules and all that. He had many tantrums because on every single day he expected to have more experience and he wanted more complicated things. So he was coming back and the tantrums were worse and worse every day because he had more expectations from himself. But mainly he was for us, oh my God, this sweet kid, look at this. We went, 3 of us that were working as play workers, we went for a beer in front of the playground because we were at the festival. We went for a drink, like first day of a festival, let's celebrate, blah, blah. Orson comes and throws everything. He was outside of the jump playground, swears, all that. He's mean to the kids. And then he told you the story about kicking a guy. Anyway, even he kicked, like he had a tantrum with his parents and he went to the first stranger, a guy, and hit him in his favorite area.
Okay.
And the guy was like, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. So we basically saw a totally different kid, like full of
outside of the playground. Right.
Including like they had trash bins from big barrels. He pushed one just because he was angry. and he ran, and this was like, oh my God, the park fits him so well. The playground fits him so well. And some of the kids will just go into painting and just play with the soft things, but some of them will release the energy. And to sum up, I keep telling to my facilitators that work in the kindergarten, they have 3 little devils. They can destroy the world if they want to do that. The 3 of them, not just the green school, they can destroy the world. They are like finding pleasure in messing around.
Yeah.
And whenever one of us is doing something more dangerous with the older ones, just because we work with the older ones and we're like, let's say, just more experience, and in my mind, more experience means less afraid. They are coming, joining. Suddenly they don't have more problems because it's fire, because it's saws, hammers, wood, whatever. And whenever they join, they're like there all the time. And I really think there's something that I appreciated me, Sonia, more than the hazard risk thing. When the facilitator says, I will not stop them because I'm uncomfortable with that. So this is the thing that I keep training my facilitators. It's very important not to say a bravo whenever because the example is with bravo. If you say bravo, the kid will take what they want, which is attention and love, and they will stop their process because you just gave them. If you just look at it differently, if you look at the process, and some of the facilitators or parents, they're yes, congrats, while looking at their phones. So for me, that's like a Coke. You are starving or you have no energy left, you can drink a Coke, but that sugar kind of gives you 20 minutes of energy, but then you need again and again and again. So I think the educators or parents sometimes are just feeding the tanks of love, but artificially.
Right.
And self-decision, self-directedness is doing the opposite. It's a slow food. It's like nourishment. And I think, I honestly think this video should be, or not only this video, because I think junk playgrounds should be in the formal education of teachers, because they never talk about it. I studied education all my life. I studied in high school, in university, my PhD, many training courses, and still only my connection with what I saw in the movie is me playing as a kid and me messing around with open-ended materials, basically, as a facilitator. But it's nice to call them open-ended materials because it sounds pedagogical. Trash, junk.
Right, but I think what Land is showing is really that play is for the kids, and they should not be playing for the adults or for any kind of they should not be directing their play to whether I'm good or not good, or they should be just enjoying their lives among themselves. And the adults, they are just really trying to facilitate their environment, not them, their environment, and them only if it's a hazard, right? If possible, but
I'm sorry, go. I keep interrupting.
So interesting, very interesting to me. I was looking, I saw it many times there, and so every time I watch it, I watch for something else. So this time I was watching for the content of what the kids were talking about. That's what I already said. But yes, the first, I saw several themes there. One of the biggest one is, of course, this risk versus hazard, which is, I think, extremely important in today's world to somehow pass to the adults that they should stop hovering like that and giving freedom back to children. But also I saw gender relationships. You didn't put a lot about what the girls do, just a little bit compared to these more boyish scenes. But it's interesting that the girls are feeling excluded by boys, or in the other way, some of them just kind of like stay in the place and paint or do something. There was this Olivia that in the first day could hardly manage that, but at the end of the movie, she's singing all over, and she kind of like found her physical strength there. But it's an interesting topic to think about, like what such a place is for girls, what they see in that, and possibilities that they can do in this kind of wild and dirty, messy place that is also very good for girls. And then this topic about like sexuality with the mannequin. But I think we are seeing sexuality already in a way that the kids are not seeing it, even when the boys are having a little bit flirting there, this and that. And after that, it becomes just an object. The girl is washing it, they're swinging on it, they hang it there. It doesn't matter that they hang it for the genitals. It's just like a place where it really nicely hangs.
Yeah. Well, thank you for watching it so closely. It's wonderful to hear you talk about it.
Right.
I liked one more thing that I just remembered. When the kid is asking the facilitator to hold his phone.
Yes, I thought it was very interesting.
Because it was like, should I not? Do you remember that? I liked that even with small things like that, you still stop and pause and reflect if you want to do that or not.
I forgot to comment on, was it Diana who asked about, does this work for any age?
Mhm.
In my older kids were there when I started the junk playground in New York. And it's hard to say whether they aged out of it or if there's only so many years of a junk playground that you can do. Because after years and years and years of doing it, the novelty wore off for them, and they were finally like, I'm not looking forward to going there.
Mhm.
I do think that the environment of what you see in the land or what's in the junk playground in New York, or a lot of these junk playgrounds, are for up to maybe preteen age kids at best. And depending upon the junk playground, they'll sometimes separate sections for very young children as well. We did in New York. Just there's a certain age where, you know, if you're just learning to walk, the unevenness becomes a hazard at times, or you need an adult there and it changes the environment. The work that I've done on flying squads, which is that sort of junk playgroundy, but in a public space. I worked with a group of kids who were sort of 10, 11 years old, and I worked with them up until they were 15, 16 years old. And it was fascinating to me to watch the environment change with that, where it was more what we all think of as playfulness, like in The Land, the movie. And by the time they're 14, 15, 16, they're sitting there wanting to just have conversations with each other and basically talking about sex and flirting. And, you know, I always, with the teenager ones, I always said it was like being a 47-year-old sitting with a bunch of teenagers trying to play truth or dare. Right? You know, like it's so uncomfortable being the adult in that environment. But underneath that is playfulness. If you're doing it right, it still has that same looseness. The risk and hazard thing becomes like, I always said, walking, like when we were going from point A to point B, one of them would always like grab my arm and walk with me, and it was like a confessional, or where they're sitting there talking about, you know, the troubles they're having with their boyfriend or something like that, you know, and like wanting my advice. And it became a very different type of relationship, but it still at its core had that same sort of risk versus hazard coming to you, and there was still a playfulness among the group. So I think it can work. Frankly, I think it, you know, we lose that playfulness as adults as well, but that doesn't mean we couldn't have it. So.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of adults in this field feel like they're supposed to like wonka, like be silly or act goofy or whatever. And, you know, and I'm like a playwork evangelist basically. And we are not children. I'm not a child. I can't play the way a child plays. That's my personal opinion, I guess. But, you know, a playworker says that play is an activity that's freely chosen, intuitively motivated, and I'll have to text you. It's like freely chosen, personally directed, and something else.
And
Intrinsically motivated, right? You all know that definition.
Yeah.
So like, that's it, you know? So like, take off the expectations. Maybe that's making TikTok videos. Maybe that's flirting. Maybe that's just sort of like, who knows what it is. That's the guiding star, I guess. And I don't see why that would continue to be relevant into the teens. But you're right. At the land, once they're like 12, 13, they just go smoke cigarettes somewhere else, basically, and do other stuff. But I think the film, or I'd hope, what I've observed about the film being used is that it's like, it just pushes what people think is possible way further. You know what I mean? It just broadens the spectrum a lot. So like, we don't need to like make the land for every child. Like, it doesn't have to look like that. It's not going to look like that. That place is specific to that community, those kids. It's specific to so many things. But what we can do is like create an environment. A yes space is like another term that people use, right? A place where we can say yes and follow the child's lead. And it may just look like something else different that's also super cool and meaningful to the kids who play there. Like, what does Susanna Law say? You know, we don't go from zero to chainsaw. Like, adventure play isn't about like handing out a book of matches and a knife to every kid because they should have access to that. It's like, if they ask for a fire, then create an environment where they can experiment with that, light candles, you know, and let things sort of like grow around that interest.
There is this other movie that we watched today. I don't know if you had a chance to watch it, Erin, or anybody else, about way younger kids called When Children Go Wild, where like 3-year-olds are sharpening sticks with knives and things like that. And it's only 12 minutes. We can watch it right now if people want to, if you didn't watch it, because it's really with very, very young kids.
I will go to sleep soon, just so you know.
Okay. Oh, before everybody goes, we need to choose a movie for the next.
I wanna say something. In the Summer Hill Festival in August, we hosted the Junk Playground for 7 days.
A week.
We had a typical announcement: no adults other than the Playworkers. And it was my first time being in a festival with families. I'd never been in IDEC, UDEC, and all the decks, all the democratic education forums. I've been into conferences and all that, but never with families. So for me, it was a novelty, and I took it for granted that people will understand, people will do, because these are self-directed families and so on and so forth. And he was like, no, you need to make it explicit. And then again, I want to share these 3 experiences with adults. One, because we didn't have a fence, we had the rope because it was a festival, and each of us, we had a space, we had the rope separating us from the parents, because UK parents need to be around because all the laws. So we kept hearing from all these families, parents, that some of the parents were also SD workers in some way. Some of them they were involved in more than parent roles in self-directed education, keep hearing, oh my God, this is so nice, so wonderful. Why we are not allowed? Because I want to play. It would be wonderful for us to play.
Mhm.
And then we had a moment in which we had a training with Ukrainian facilitators, because we have a project, the two of us have a project for Ukrainian people, not necessarily as the workers, to take on the opportunity and create now junk playgrounds in Ukraine when it will be safe, because this is how it started. So you can restore the joy of play, not waiting for the real playgrounds to be settled, but to have just use whatever. And we had the opportunity to train some Ukrainian adults. And after he did a session, we talked, blah, blah. We invited some of them to be just shadows, just job shadowing, look at what's happening, do not interfere, just stay away. And it was good and bad in many ways. Good because they were super curious and they really wanted to do this. And weird in the way in which, can I photograph you this close because I like what you're doing?
Yeah.
You kid, no matter who you are. And then instead of us observing the kids and being aware, each of us, we had our position. Can you tell me what's happening? And then let's discuss all these kids speaking very loudly about them. Can we do that? And then we didn't realize that some of them, they are the parents of the kids that we had in the space, and now the parents were in the space. So can I show you how to do it? Oh, sweetie, let's do it like this. And we started to have problems with parents because we identified this with them, not like, oh my God, we are mind readers, but with talking with them and keep putting boundaries all the time. We identified that they feel anxious because of the war. So some of them, they were not helicopter parents before this, but they are now. So they interfere with the play in a very normal way, normal in the sense if it's natural to go in that place of your mind to want to protect your child. But I think we set a boundary to the parent ones. I set a boundary to the parent ones because she was saying the kid really, really needs her. And I said, can we ask the kid? And I talked with the kid, how much time you want mom to be here? He said 10 minutes. I put a timer and I managed to have the timer on when I passed to the mom and I said, Mom, it's time to say goodbye now. You cannot be a job shadowing right now, but we are waiting after he finishes his play. And then they kept coming. The parents who we set boundaries to, I think I set boundaries to 3 of them, like after they talked with them, my colleagues talked with them. And one of the moms got super upset with me because I basically kicked her out. And then the second and third and fourth day, they came back and they said, oh my God, I do not know what you did, but my kid is as before the war. He's excited about stuff. He was not excited about anything anymore. And he's excited about this now. And I was like, because you keep dragging the kid in that sense of you're in danger. You keep dragging the kid with your emotions. And talking about this, kind of they saw the power of stepping back. Because they kept stepping in. So this was the second observation. And the third, we said, oh my God, these adults, they're so interested in being here. Let's have an interval, just a time slot just for them in the last day. And everybody, when they saw the poster, oh my God, this is so awesome. I always wanted this. Time slot happens, one adult. One adult in the space who wandered like for 20 minutes, not knowing what to touch, not knowing what to do. But kids, when they don't know what to touch, they touch everything until they take a decision, right? This adult was like, oh my God, I'm not going to touch anything, not to destroy anything. What are these people saying? We were 3 adults already in the space that we started to do stuff. We didn't know what we were going to do, but we enjoyed the process. And then she finally gave in and she created a sun. She painted. She put beams into the sun rays positions, and then she left the best feedback ever. But the process was so incredibly different than what we heard. For a week, we heard from people that are supporting play and advocating for play, that they want to play. And when time came,
right, they don't show up.
and it was the same thing with the festival. The festival was an open offering, an open space. Bring your offering, do whatever you want. So we were the only ones who had something for kids.
And it was called the Festival of Childhood.
In a place with 1,000 children. 1,000 children. Children.
Yeah.
100 children. So we were the only ones, but this happened also with them there. They could do something. The organizers were open to give them the space. They were open, and they still came to us saying, oh my God, we are so happy that you're here. This is the only place for our children, is the only place where play is allowed. And for me, this happens. There's a switch with the adults when you said that you are uncomfortable with teens discussions. So,
I do think I'm sorry.
it's fine. I just wanted to finish with, I do not know when this switch happens, but I think a switch happens.
I in my work with the land and sense, I have like come to believe that like a parent can't be being a parent is not the same as being a play worker. Like these are different roles in a child's life, you know? And so it is a really special opportunity when a child can be in an environment where the adults that are present are there to support their play. And that is their priority. That's their role. That's the point of them. And I think there are moments in parenthood when like we can do this to various degrees, but for me, as far as like making change on behalf of children, I don't know. I try to move it away from being, and I'm not saying you're doing this, but like move it out of the conversation of parenting, like having these not be about like this film gets shown a lot in like parenting groups and on parenting blogs. And it's like, okay, fine, but like the parents have enough shit to do. This is about like the society in which the children are living, right? And so, being a play worker is different than being a teacher, though you do have very play positive teachers, and these things can all like, dovetail. But play work itself is very special and separate and interesting. And I appreciate you all taking an interest in it and, applying it to the work that you're doing, because it is very special and cool. It's so rich. It's so, there are things that we can, and you're doing this in your work already, that we can apply like every day immediately. And there's so much room to grow in the field too, and ways for ideas to.
I have a question for you, Erin, and for Alex. How different it is, I imagine how it is to have a group of neighborhood kids who come there to just spend time without their parents. They just kind of walk out of home, right, and go there, and that's it. And the New York ones, where it's a destination where parents bring you and wait for you, maybe to, and the kids don't know each other. And also they don't know who they will meet there if they come next time.
Yeah. Do you want to, Erin?
You answer that. I mean, I think you can imagine what would be advantageous about having the same people all the time. But I think what you have done at Governor's Island as a destination and having so many risks, that is a tricky environment, tricky thing to navigate.
A big part of being a play worker is developing a relationship with the kids there. And so if you have a community space where you can understand what is a risk and what is a hazard, because what might look like a risk for one kid is a hazard for another, or developmentally, you know, as they grow, as you can develop those relationships, you can let them go further out and try more things. And it requires a sense of trust, and trust comes with time. And so if you are a destination playground, you lose all that. Even if you develop a relationship with a particular kid, say a kid who, like in New York, there's kids who would just come back over and over again because they love it, because the environment changes so significantly each time that kid's there, because all the other kids are different, you can never quite get to that level of trust and like really get to a place like where the land is. In New York, we very consciously made the decision. We understood when we chose well, we didn't choose the piece of land, basically. New York City gave us 40,000 square feet of land for free, and we weren't going to say no to it. But when they offered it to us, we knew that it was going to be a destination. We knew that it wasn't going to have that community sense, and decided to do it anyway because it was too good of an opportunity. And it was also a great PR piece. It allowed a lot more conversations to happen and a lot more people to discover junk playgrounds. But it definitely misses something that a lot of those more European community-based ones have, which is to develop that relationship with the kids. And so, yeah, you're right. It's unfortunate, but at least it's still an opportunity, is kind of how we saw it.
I think your program though does something similar that the land does. It's sort of people come and they're like, oh shit, maybe we could bring some tires onto the playground. You know what I mean? It just sort of like expands what seems possible for folks. So that's very productive. Even if like what happens on site is limited. Productive beyond that moment.
Oh, so let's choose the movie before everybody else has to go. And then if people want to stay and talk about the other one, which for me was also very interesting, with the little kids, 3-year-olds in a green school. So Erin, did Eugene give you a way how to come to the voting place, like to enroll into the course?
He didn't. No, this is news to me.
So if you would like to become the part of the group, I could probably do it right now. And then you could, if you want to, while people are looking through the movies, I could very quickly put you in there.
I'll cast a vote.
Okay, let me just then share my screen where the voting is. So we have, let me just refresh it. Before I share it, we have about 80 movies, I guess, from which we could choose what to discuss. Let me share the screen. And also I will send everyone a link if they don't have it. Erin, I don't think you will be able to see the link. Do you see the screen?
I can see it. Yes, I do. Yes.
Okay, and let me just quickly share the link with everyone if other people would like that. So one of the tricky things is that when I share things, everything changes here for me. Okay. All right. Okay, so that's there. And to go back to where am I now? Right here. I'll put this window there. So the topics that are yellow are from some other time when some people wanted to kind of selected them for possible. This is what we are doing right now. So we have preschool in 3 countries, 3 cultures that people wanted at some point of time. And I'll just read through those. Other topics, if you want something, just click on this propose this topic and it will become yellow. Freedom Riders is a possibility. I don't know how much you know about Freedom Riders. That's a high school problems, and it's after this real teacher, a high school teacher, Erin Davis, who created this incredible experiment, but the film itself is a feature film. Accepted is a very interesting comedy that partially is made as a comedy, but has a lot of interesting, deep ideas about self-directed learning, because it's about a kid who was not accepted to any college, but wanted to have his parents believe that he was, creating a phony website with his friends to kind of like get a letter, and then becomes something that's live, and 150 people come to this college. They and then like what to do with that, and they created a self-directed learning environment where everybody can study what they want. Hole in the Wall is very interesting experiment by an Indian educator, Sugata Mitra, and his whole project thereon in New Delhi with the kids from the slums and their self-learning of the computers. And then later on, how he developed that into an incredible program of self-learning of computers. The Polished Stones K5 math achievement in Japan and Taiwan. It's a documentary about how math is taught in about like 5th grade in Japan.
Anna, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm gonna have to go for school pickup. My oppressed son goes to school, so I have to go get him.
So if you would like to in the future continue, I will create your membership and you will get an invitation letter. You could be able, and you could be able to join whenever you want if something is interesting to you. So I have your email, so I can do that without, I'll just give you a password that you have to change anyway at the time. So it was a real pleasure, and I'm looking on my other screen. That's why I'm looking to see your face. Really a real pleasure to see you and to meet you. And thank you for this wonderful movie that you made.
It was really nice meeting all of you, and great to see you, Alex.
Yeah, it's so nice to see you, Erin. Thank you so much.
Well, we'll see you guys more soon. Send me the email, and good night to those going to bed. Thank you. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.
Okay, so we had Dead Poets Society. It's a very famous film with Robin Williams about the very progressive higher education in colleges. It's a very almost cultish movie about a very charismatic teacher that kind of like dares his students to show what they're preaching for. BBC Chinese School, Hard Beginning and Young Pioneers is also documentary. Two documentaries about teaching in China in K-12. It's rather, it's not too old. It's 10 years old only. What else we have? Yellow Class. It's about I didn't see the class, but it's an Estonian high school decides to defend his bullied classmate. We didn't see it yet before, so if anybody wants to vote, we are not voting yet, just choosing. Please Vote for Me is a very interesting movie, Forbidden in China, that is about Chinese kids. It's a documentary about choosing class monitors and all kinds of politics and corruption that go on with that. The School Life, it's about immigrant children in France. It's It's a very interesting movie, drama comedy, about a young teacher and how she's dealing with these immigrant children in France and hiding her really immigrant, not hiding, everybody knows, but kind of like being very assimilated into the French society. While in reality, she's really not assimilated either. So it's very interesting what's going on there. Socrates Cafe is doping cheating. This is about democratic education in the wild. It's a video recording at the Quinnipiac University. I didn't see this one, so it's an interesting movie. The Breakfast Club is a cult movie in the United States. A lot of teens and young adults, my students loved it always. And it's about these several guys and the girls that are grounded to come to school on Saturday, but then they create incredibly deep conversations about their lives, about their values, about what they're doing to each other. There is a lot of tensions between some of them, breakthroughs, a very dramatic movie, but also a comedy. Raising Cain is a documentary movie about problems of boys in the feminist schooling. Very important movie. Blue Eyes, Brown Eyes is Angry Eyes. I don't know if anybody saw it. It's an experiment that Jane Elliott did right after Martin Luther King was killed in a Indiana little city where she was teaching with third grade kids, but later on developed into a whole program. She's still doing that with people, and she changed a lot from very interesting young and creative teacher into very oppressive, really kind of like brainwashing, very hard to watch what she's doing with young white adults in trying to teach them to be anti-racist. What else do we have? Yellow. Maybe nothing else. Maybe something. Oh, The Republic of Shkid is a Russian movie that I haven't seen yet. So Eugene always says what it is about, but I haven't seen it. It's interesting, probably. The Fifth Seal is a Hungarian movie, drama tragedy. It's a very big ethical questions there, and how far you can go on putting people to the test of their ethical values, taking place right at the end of the Second World War. And discussing a lot of interesting things for education, although it doesn't look like that on the first watch. And that's it. So did anybody choose anything that it was not yellow before?
We voted the yellow things, some of the yellow things.
Okay,
Both.
so if you want to vote, let's go here to vote for the next topic. And let's see if there is anything. I didn't vote yet. You vote 2 votes for the.
I didn't vote yet as well. I'll be voting now.
Okay, let me vote for what I'd like to vote. Well, if everybody wants that, I'll be together with you. Dead Poets Society, that's what I'm voting for. So I guess that will be the winner for the next time that will be scheduled. So in 2 weeks from now, unfortunately, I will probably not be there because I will be in Sweden in a conference on the 3rd of November. I think that's the date. So enjoy watching it. I love that movie. I'm watching it anyway without being able.
I'm afraid I also might not be there because I mean, I did email Eugene that I have meetings on some of the Thursdays. So I think I have a meeting on November the 3rd. But I do hope that you enjoy the discussion, whoever comes.
But you know what? Maybe, what is this now? I don't know what's my computer doing on me. I don't want to share anything at the moment. Okay. If you will not be there, I will not be there. Eugene will probably be there. Maybe other people would like it. But if you want to move this whole meeting to some other day, we can write on the email and see if people want to relieve. This is not a good time for, or a good day for people. We'll see. Maybe it's only one time.
I don't know. Just whichever works best. So yeah, it's fine by me, whichever works for everyone else. So yeah.
Right. Okay, so did you watch the second movie?
I didn't even know that there is a second movie.
Okay, how about you, Olessya? Did you watch it?
Yeah, I did watch it, and I think I watched it like before when we watched it the first time, like 1 or 2 years ago, and I also like rewatched it yesterday just in case if I forgot anything, because I think I remember them quite well. So yeah, the 12-minute one, right?
Yeah, 12-minute one.
Yeah, I did watch it.
This is the one with the kids in the forest?
Yeah.
Yeah, kids in the wild, little kids in the forest with their. It's a green school in Denmark.
Yeah, this is when Eugene invited the kids, my kids, because we watched these two movies. So I watched it. For me, there's nothing new in that. For what we do, but yeah,
I just watched.
Do you though? I do not know if you.
There is besides fire and the different hazards in this junk playground. These people are really in the having school in the outside. They're all the time outside. There is a river next to them. Kids are climbing very high trees. And one of the things that the teacher talks about is trust. Because that's also a question for people. How can you let them like climb such trees? Are you not afraid that they will fall? And the teacher calls the boy up in the tree and says, "Hey, do you feel any problem there?" He says, "No, just maybe if there is a thin branch," but he's standing on a very solid branch for him. He's about 3 years old, 3.5, maybe 4, the highest. And that they are really using sharp knives and working on the woods there. And also something like what Erin says, it doesn't come that you just give them a knife first day when they come there. It's something that develops. The trust is something that develops. They also
First day. I give knives in the first day. I have events with children that I do not know, which usually they are weekend events. I don't do them this year. I kind of stopped them with COVID, but we were doing weekend events, meaning you come for 3 hours on a Saturday in the forest. And my events were also with knives and saws, and from the beginning. I do not know the child, but I have knives for children, which means the tip is not it's round for the children knives, but is as sharp as every other knife. And I think when I had events that had more danger, I just allowed or asked parents to stay closer, meaning I need more eyes, because I have events like this with 20 kids, or I had events with 20 kids that cooked that I never met. And meaning not just mix the things I'm comfortable you to mix, but peeling carrots, cutting, all that. I think there's a way to treat kids with respect.
Right.
That they
let me show you this very quickly. When what kind of scene is, what kind of knives are here and what children. Very quickly, I'll share that with you.
Will you find that I must say that when I'm training my teachers, I'm saying the most important thing is not for you to trust necessarily the kid that will not fall, because maybe the kid will fall. What you need to trust is your abilities to offer first aid. So what we do is a lot of first aid training courses with doctors that they teach us how to react specifically. Also, now and then I'm teaching my facilitators, for example, dude, if the branch is thinner than the kid's wrist, teach the kid not to go there. But the kids will learn by falling. So when they don't know how to climb, they don't know how to climb closer to the ground, not on top.
Right.
When they go on top, they already know how to climb.
Right. Here is a little scene with knife.
Are you going to tell me this isn't as dangerous as it looks?
No, it's not dangerous. The children have learned how to use the knives properly. So it's not seen as some kind of weapon. It's a tool for doing something, such as whittling. I think many cultures like to wrap their children up in cotton wool. I don't think that's about a lack of love here for children by their parents. They see it in a different way. That in fact, children should have the chance to be free.
So those are kinds of knives. These are they also go, they make mud, they throw things in the river.
Literally my kindergarten. This is what happens in my kindergarten.
This is the boy that runs very fast.
So what's your approach to safety here?
You have to use your brain, and if you trust that the kids, they can take care of themselves.
Mate, are you afraid of anything? I was watching this boy climb to the very top of the tree, other boys hitting the log with a stick very close to each other. I couldn't see you or anyone else.
I was standing up there and I saw it too.
You saw it?
Yes.
You weren't worried?
No. That's a part of the play almost every day. And they learn to be careful. Sometimes they hit, yes, they got a little accident. But that's the way to learn.
Exactly what you said.
Only once I have to drive to the hospital with a boy with a big injury in 17 years. So I'm not worried.
And what was the injury?
It was a parent who drove over a foot of a kid.
Parents who drove over the foot of the kid.
The world's first forest kindergartens were founded in Scandinavia in the early...
We don't have to watch the whole thing.
I went in emergency with kids multiple times. All my facilitators are trained in first aid. My kids are trained in first aid. But now and then we have things more complex that need stitches. Usually cuts and also ticks, because we don't take them out by ourselves because that's dangerous. Not difficult, just dangerous. But we do go in emergency room, and I think also parents that are with us in the first year, they get scared at every phone call that we make, though sometimes the kid just wants to brag with something, but they get scared because they know that there's a risk. But when they are with us for more than 1-2 years, they have this, it's fine, tell me where to come, at what hospital. And I think when I started, and I will finish with this because I noticed that you want to say something. When I started the kindergarten in the school, but we were seen in the community more as a kindergarten than a school, because people didn't understand what type of school we are. I had just boys and one girl. Like, who trusted the system was like, oh, I have a boy. Boys would like this. So we started to promote a lot for the girls. A lot of our promotion at the beginning was girls can do this too. Girls can be brave in nature too. Girls enjoy nature too. So a lot of our posters were with girls because the confusion was this is an adventure thing for boys, not a kindergarten that is in nature for everyone, for anyone. So yeah.
I'll ask you, do you make like yours is a green school? Do you kind of like do some scouting in the sense like looking at some trails or identifying some useful plants or making shelters or whatever?
All that. All that. And usually it comes from them, what they are interested in. I had 2 years of mushrooms. 2 years of kids being obsessed with mushrooms. And now we went in the forest on Saturday, and the first thing I bought, it was the guide of mushrooms that the kids had. Not that I had in school, but they bought, and I was going with them. And it's child-led, but forests and these buildings, it will always happen because it's in the DNA of each child. It will always happen. But everything, we are a nature-based kindergarten, and now we are slowly going back there just because our like 2/3 of our kids in kindergarten, they are newcomers. So we take them slowly because some of them, they are still with parents in the space, meaning that soft, smooth transition from being with a parent to being with a parent in a space, then being just with adults, because we have a smooth transition, a kind one, meaning the parent can stay with you few weeks up until you are
feel comfortable.
And comfortable, because we do secure attachment based transitions. So our kids, we are at the basis of a hill. On top of the hill is the forest. In front of the hill is the river. Now there's construction area at the river, so we don't usually go there that often. But the kindergarten kids are outside almost non-stop in the 8 hours. Some of them, they sleep. In this space that we have now, we don't sleep outside. In the previous space, we had also sleeping areas outside. And the other one was more adventure-like, so we didn't actually need the forest. But this space that we have for 1 year now is more cute in terms of it had a lawn, because the kids made sure that we don't have it anymore. But the other one was a bit wilder. It was on the same hill, 2 minutes walking distance from another, just that we are now lower, so less adventure, but a lot of games. Everything that you saw in that movie, that's for green school value.
Right. I like what you said, that your kids don't have so many allergies because they do experience, their bodies experience the actual environment in which they live, so that they develop the immunity. And I think that this immunity is in a way also psychological immunity, because you kind of like orient yourself in the space.
The first feedback that we received from parents, and keep receiving for parents that are new to green school, is that their kids are braver. They take more chances, and they are less afraid of climbing or natural stuff, and they are contributing more to the cleaning at home. Curiously enough, because they don't clean at school.
That's interesting.
I was gonna tell one of the most interesting facts that I came across about 15 years ago, maybe 20 years ago now. I worked for a nonprofit arts organization in New York City, an organization that does its own grant writing to place professional artists in classrooms, in public school classrooms in New York City that don't have access to the arts. And so they provide everything, the artists, all the materials, and they do teacher training programs, parent training programs, a really wonderful organization. And at the time I was, my job was to be collecting all of the data and analyzing it from what the teachers were doing to support the grant writers. And the organization had been around since the 1970s, so it was about 40 years old when I was collecting the data. And the most interesting piece of data that I discovered, or most interesting to me, was that in the 1970s in New York City, the average 4-year-old capably could use a pair of adult scissors. And in the early 2000s, that was the average 7-year-old.
Yeah.
And just how, and I raised my own children. The minute they were old enough to hold a knife, I gave them a knife, and I always let them cut food next to me. We'd go camping a lot and we'd carve and all of that. And it was so interesting to me because all of the other families that in the school community, and this was a democratic free school, this was as open-minded of a group of other parents, they all thought I was mad for giving my children. I remember taking my kids camping when they were like 5 with other families, and they're like, your kids have knives, your kids have knives. And I was like, yes, I bought them for them. And none of the other kids could use a knife or scissors or anything like that. And my kids could, and it's not because my kids were geniuses, it's just because they had that experience. And I always thought knives are kind of the funniest because, don't do this, and you're fine. Like the worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to need a couple of stitches. But like in all the years I work in wood shops and things like that, those types of environments with kids with electric saws and stuff, I've never applied more than a Band-Aid.
Right. And this man says here, the only accident in the 17 years was when a parent drove over somebody's hand.
I love that line.
A real accident for the hospital, they have all kinds of little scratches, and their research is really that these green schools or open schools or the junk playgrounds have way less accidents that are serious. But yes, there are some scratched knees and, You
have that line in the video. We watched today after the land. We watched a TV news documentary on his playground, and the kids were so surprised to see Alex young, and they were all interested in what he's saying, and they liked 2 ideas. They liked the fact that you said in the interview that kids are getting harmed less in spaces like this because they are aware that they are in a dangerous space, so they look around, while in the typical playgrounds they don't look around for dangers, so they get hurt more often than in the and they loved this because they said, of course you're more aware, because if you can cut yourself, you don't want to cut yourself.
Of course. They take care of themselves, yes, when they know that nobody else is going to.
It's very similar in like a democratic school or a self-directed school. When children know that the rules that they're making or the decisions that they're coming upon are real, like if they make a bad rule, a bad decision, whatever, it's going to be implemented. Like then they take it very, very seriously. And they make sure that they're making responsible decisions because they know. And it's the same with dangerous environments. If they know that they could actually, nobody wants to get stabbed. No one wants to break a leg. Yeah. And so therefore, if they know that it's legitimate, that they really could do that, of course they take it seriously.
And it depends on them, and not somebody is going to take care of it. When they really take responsibility, what we are doing with this hovering, we are actually robbing them of taking responsibility, because we take responsibility as adults.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I
Interesting.
said the same thing when my older children, my own children, wanted to start riding the New York City subway by themselves. My oldest son he was like, I'm gonna say he was 9 when he started telling me, and I live in Brooklyn, and their school is in Harlem, so we're talking about an hour subway ride, like a significant distance.
And it switches, changes.
There were 2 different subways they could take. One had a transfer and one didn't. And my oldest son, when he was about 9, was like, I want to take the subway by myself. And the first thing I did was look up what the law was. And the law says when it's not negligent, do it. There's no age. So I was like, well, how old? And I remember thinking to myself, well, no child wants to be abducted, pushed onto the tracks, get lost in New York City by themselves. And I realized that the child who's ready is the child who starts saying, I want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And, it took him, I think it took over a year before, from his first initial request to letting him, but he was probably 10 when I first let him take, I can't remember exactly, but, we did the practice buying a Metro card, going up to the person who sells in the booth, and asking for directions, making him go where I was with him, but he led the way. I bought him a cell phone. I gave him a little note that said, yes, I know my son is by himself on the subway, and so on and so forth. And the first time, actually, he didn't tell me the first time he took the subway by himself. I didn't find out for another week or 2 that he got off a station early, which let him off on the wrong side of the city. It's a train that goes up the east side and then transfers over to up the west side and transfers over to the east side. And he got off a station early and thought, oh, I'll just walk it. And apparently he got out, looked around and was like, oh no, I'm on the west side. Went, oh, there's a transfer bus, got on the bus, took it across town, got off, got on a different subway and went uptown by himself. I said, I know a lot of adults who can't do that. It just goes to show, like, if you listen to them, they'll let you know when they're ready.
Right, definitely. It's a very interesting. I don't know if you ever read the book by Jerome Bruner, the nature uses of immaturity. It's an old book from the 70s, but very, very important book. Jerome Bruner, The Nature and Uses of Immaturity. Talking about how human race developed into what we are, partially because our kids are so helpless and immature for much longer time than animals. They don't mature. But what we have done right now in the last 30 years or so is that we abuse that. We make our children infantile when they are not.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting. But the book is still very interesting concept, that because we don't come with natural instincts that just kick off and we just walk or whatever we do like animals, we teach our children for much long time, and there is a possibility for greater flexibility and creativity because things are not settled. But what we are trying to do now with the current schooling, and because of all these fears, is to fixate things for children and not let them explore and be creative and not be settled. So that's fascinating. Fascinating, really.
Sonia's trying to find the book now. Although I just realized
I can send the book to you on PDF if you want to.
Oh yeah, please do. Please do.
Also, sleep.
No, I gotta.
I need to.
We all need to go to sleep. I'll send you in the email. Don't worry.
Can you
about
send it to me too?
Yeah, I'll send to you too, Olessya.
Thank
Right.
you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so if everybody wants to go, it's 9 o'clock in the evening for me, 10 o'clock in the evening for Sonia and Alex. I'm going to watch a nice movie now. Something completely different.
I'm gonna eat dinner, go to sleep, wake up at 5:30. So.
Wow, that's early.
Enjoy. This morning I got up at 6 and went for a long walk around the two rivers of Belgrade, because there are two big rivers where Belgrade is, with a friend of mine from my youth. And we took like a 2-hour walk on the Danube, and beautiful thing. I'll send you pictures too.
Do that. Thank you for hosting this.
Well, you're welcome. I enjoyed it.
Thank
Thank you. Thank you for organizing. Thank you, Alex, for inviting Erin. Okay. Bye.
Bye, everyone.